Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets because as you can see, over the last week or so, Bitcoin was trading in this consolidation pattern here as formed by this downtrend right here and formed by this uptrend right here. Now, we were expecting Bitcoin to break either bullish or bearish above or below this consolidation pattern. We were expecting Bitcoin to see some kind of breakout coming in the next couple of days because these two trend lines were going to be crossing on the 14th of September. And interestingly enough, we've actually seen a bullish breakout of this. A lot of times what you see with these consolidation patterns is that they are continuation patterns. And considering the pattern and considering the direction of the market leading into this consolidation pattern was bearish, we kind of expected that this was going to break bearish, but interestingly enough, we actually broke bullish. I also want to draw a parallel between this price action and some Bitcoin price action that we saw in early April, and also get an idea of the potential implications and ramifications of this bullish breakout and see where this may be leading the Bitcoin market over the next couple of days and into the next couple of weeks. From there, I also want to do some technical analysis on Ethereum because recently, Ethereum actually pulled all the way back down to a yearly low of under $168. That is a very, very low valuation for Ethereum, and we have managed to see some kind of a bounce. Ethereum is actually up around 4% over the last 24 hours, trading at around $190. So I want to talk about the Ethereum chart a little bit, seeing as Ethereum is, of course, the head honcho of the altcoins. But anyway, guys, before we get into today's video, if you enjoyed today's video, as always, definitely consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing the notification bell, guys. It does help out the channel if you do it, and I would be appreciative if you did it. But without much further ado, let's get right into it. Bitcoin is currently trading around $6,406. Let's go ahead and jump over to CoinMarketCap and do our crypto market recap, and then we'll jump into the technical analysis. As we can see over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin is up just a little over 1%. Not a major move, but definitely an interesting move because, like I said, we have broken bullish out of this consolidation pattern. The altcoins are actually doing okay today. We see Apis up here, up 150%. Definitely an outlier. Definitely not something that's probably going to continue for much longer, but definitely something interesting nonetheless. Aurora is up 38%. That's another big gainer today. Nano is up 16%. And OneChain is up 10.8%. Overall, the altcoin market is rather neutral. We see a lot of green, we see a lot of red. Of course, we don't see any double-digit losers today, so we do see a little bit more green than we do red, and that's especially apparent in the top 10. Most of the top 10 are green today, one of which is, of course, Ethereum. Another big dog, of course, is XRP. It's very nice to see these altcoins getting some kind of rebound because Ethereum has been getting absolutely slaughtered over the last several months. We've seen Ethereum hemorrhage price action. We've seen Ethereum hemorrhage valuation from its high of around $1,400 at the beginning of the year all the way to where it is now of $190. Ethereum has lost nearly 90% of its valuation if you take into account the all-time high and the yearly low. Ethereum has had an absolute beating, so it is nice to see some of these altcoins getting some kind of rebound and hopefully giving a little bit more security and bringing back a little bit more confidence to these altcoins. Anyway, Bitcoin's daily volume is currently hovering around $4.2 billion. It is up about 1.61% in the last 24 hours, like we said. Ethereum's daily volume is hovering just under $2 billion, and Bitcoin's dominance is still also hovering up here around 57%. Nothing really has changed here. Bitcoin's dominance has continued to go up and continue to plateau a little bit, but in the last several days, mostly in the month of September especially, we've seen Bitcoin's dominance continue to rise as Ethereum's has continued to drop off. I discussed Bitcoin and Ethereum's dominance at length in yesterday's video. If you're interested in watching that video, you can do so in the top right. But nevertheless, I believe that's just about everything we wanted to cover on CoinMarketCap. One thing I want to point out is that we are very, very close to getting back up above $200 billion in market capitalization. That would definitely be a bullish thing, but like I said, going below $200 billion wasn't really that big of a deal, and going back up above $200 billion, likewise, in my opinion, wouldn't exactly be the biggest deal ever, but it is something that nevertheless we would like to see because any bullish action is bullish action, period. Anyway, let's go ahead and get onto the hourly chart for Bitcoin and discuss this little consolidation pattern that Bitcoin was in. Now, of course, if you guys have been following the market for a little while, you will probably remember Bitcoin running up here to around $7,400. We covered this run extensively because we were expecting that it would probably continue a little bit more than it did. But interestingly enough, it decided to go and jump off the metaphorical cliff. Bitcoin crashed $1,100 in 24 hours, and that was one of the biggest pullbacks that we've seen all year. Even though we've been in a very, very dramatic bear market, Bitcoin did decide to go ahead and jump off a cliff. And from there, Bitcoin has been entering this week-long consolidation pattern right here. And like I said in the intro, we were expecting that Bitcoin is going to break out of it. I believe I remember mentioning in passing in a video prior, I don't recall which video it was, but I do believe I remember mentioning in passing that I was expecting that more than likely we were going to break bearish out of this. If I were to have put a percentage likelihood on that, I probably would have said about 60% that we were going to break bearish out of it, 40% that we were going to break bullish out of it, 40% bullish because we were so close to support at $6,000, and we did have a lot of support trend lines, not just this short-term one that formed back over here on the 8th. We did have a lot of reason to be bullish on Bitcoin, part of it just being the fact that Bitcoin had corrected so very hard all in the span of one day. The bulls were definitely going to have their day coming after this massive bearish day that we saw back over here in the beginning of September when, like I said, we just went and jumped off a cliff. But like I said, it is very interesting that we managed to get a bullish breakout of here, and that definitely does have very important implications for the market, because if we broke bearish out of this, what was likely to happen is that we were probably going to come back down here and test $6,000 and probably again go below it in a similar way that we've seen Bitcoin go below $6,000 a couple of times previously. We saw Bitcoin come down here to the $100 billion market capitalization level back over here and get support. And then also recently we saw it pull back to around $5,900, $5,850, somewhere around there. So we were probably going to see something similar to that if we did break bearish out of this consolidation pattern. Might I also add that it is still very possible that we do that. Just because we've broken bullish out of this consolidation pattern doesn't necessarily mean that a new rally is coming. It doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, well, the bear market's over or something. All it means is that it's a little bit of bullish news for Bitcoin. And that's exactly what we need right now. We need something to actually kind of get the ball rolling if Bitcoin is going to kick off a new rally. But like I've talked about in previous videos, guys, I think the era of rallies in this bear market is kind of over. I'm starting to think that the majority of the kind of price action that we're going to see, at least through the end of the year, is mostly just sideways action, and that we're probably not going to see a lot of dramatic swings like we saw when Bitcoin ran from $5,750 all the way up to $8,400, or when it pulled back from $20,000 to $6,000. I think a lot of the volatility has left the space, and I don't think it's coming back immediately, and I think that we're probably going to see a little bit of bullish price action coming from this, but are we going to be able to get back up above $7,400 and maybe get something moving? I don't know, guys. I'm not totally convinced yet. Call me a cynic. Definitely the market has made me, I've definitely learned a lot about the market, and to all the people that call me a perma-bull, I'm not a perma-bull, and I'm also not a perma-bear in this situation, but I think you guys get my point. Anyway, I want to go ahead and draw a comparison to this, to something that we saw in early April, because there's a very interesting parallel that you can draw between the two. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the oscillators right here because we're not going to need them. I'm also going to turn off the 20 interval exponential moving average. What we have here is the 4-hour chart. And as you can see right here, what we saw Bitcoin do is, like I said, it jumped off the metaphorical cliff, entered this consolidation pattern, and recently we've broken bullish out of it. We saw a very, very similar thing happen over here in the beginning of April. If we pull our chart back over here, what we saw was Bitcoin jumped off the metaphorical cliff in the beginning of March from its recent high of around $12,000, pulled all the way back down to around $6,500. One interesting thing to point out there is that Bitcoin did not go down to $6,000 in a similar way that we have not gone down to $6,000 in this pullback. We never actually went down and touched $6,000. Very similar to this situation. And what we saw down here is that Bitcoin went into this kind of consolidation pattern that a lot of people may have called a bear flag, and a lot of people may have used that to call Bitcoin going below $6,000. But nevertheless, we actually saw a bullish break out of it. And this is a 4-hour candlestick, but this actually happened in 1 hour. Bitcoin gained, I forgot exactly what it was. I believe it was close to $1,400 in the span of about an hour, because we saw a massive short squeeze, about $1,300 in the span of an hour, several percent. It was like 15% in 1 hour. It was a crazy move for Bitcoin. Bitcoin got it had a lot of price action come into it, and had a lot of bullish price action come in because we broke bullish out of this consolidation pattern, and we saw a short squeeze. Because on the shorts chart, what happened when this happened is that the shorts also went and jumped off a cliff, and when the shorts jumped off the cliff, all the short stop losses got triggered, a lot of shorts got covered, a lot of buying pressure was put on the market, and that kicked off a new rally. Is the same thing going to happen here, guys? I don't think so, but we do have an interesting thing to look at, and that is the fact that Ethereum, not Ethereum, I don't know why I said Ethereum, and the interesting thing that we want to look at is that Bitcoin shorts are also back up here at this similar level that we saw in early April. When this short squeeze happened right here, that's this red candlestick right here, when this short squeeze happened, Bitcoin's shorts were up here around 38, 37, 40,000 shorts, which is very similar to the levels that we're currently at. Is it possible that we should see some kind of short squeeze coming here in the next couple of days? Yes, it is very possible. Is it likely? I'm not totally convinced that it is. If some short squeeze like that was going to happen, it may well have happened when we initially broke bullish above our current consolidation pattern rather than waiting a couple of days. It'd be kind of strange to see that happen, but it's definitely possible, guys. This is Bitcoin, and this is cryptocurrency after all. But I did want to draw your attention to this parallel in between the bottoming pattern down here in April and the bottoming pattern that we may be potentially forming right here in mid-September, because this could be a very bullish thing for Bitcoin, and it could push Bitcoin back up towards recent levels of around $7,400. We're going to have to see on that. Time is going to tell. I don't think we have enough technical analysis to be as sure as I would like to be sure as to give my opinion on whether or not Bitcoin is going back to $7,400 anytime soon. Anyway, with that said, I do want to go ahead and talk about Ethereum Because like I discussed in a couple of previous videos, Ethereum has taken an absolute beating in the last little while, guys. Ethereum has an all-time high up here of over $1,400. And Ethereum's a good project. I'm not necessarily on board with everything that they do. I'm not necessarily on board with all of their implementations. I'm not necessarily on board with how the protocol works. I mean, I have my own qualms with Ethereum, but at the end of the day, you're never going to like every single system. And the fact of the matter is, Ethereum, in my opinion, does deserve the #2 spot, at least for now. There are competitors like EOS. There are other protocol coins and cryptocurrencies and other protocol blockchains that do give Ethereum some valuable competition, but for the time being, I think the top 3 right here is organized pretty well, to be honest. I think Bitcoin deserves #1, Ethereum deserves #2, and XRP, whether or not it deserves #3 or not, I'm not going to even get into that, but I do think Ethereum deserves its #2 spot. But I also don't believe that it deserves $1,400 of valuation. With that said, I also don't believe it deserves $160 of valuation. Like I said in yesterday's video, what I believe has happened here is that Ethereum, the price action for Ethereum has gone from one extreme straight to the other, because that's exactly what happened in 2017 also. Ethereum started 2017 over here trading at $8. Guys, we have to have a little bit of perspective here when we're talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. These are very, very young markets, guys. We got to have some long-term perspective. We got to realize 2 years ago, Ethereum was trading under $15. Keep that in mind, guys, because when Ethereum's trading at 15 times that right now and we're worried about that, that's because we're not looking at the long term in the way that we should be. We need to be here for the long term. But anyway, guys, you know my opinion on that. My point of the matter is that Ethereum had a massive run in 2017. It started the year at $8. It ended the year roughly at $1,400. We'll call January 13th when it hit all-time high the end of the year for the sake of argument. But the fact of the matter is it did need a pullback. But whether or not it deserved this kind of pullback is definitely something that we can debate in the comment section down below. I don't believe Ethereum deserves to be as low as it currently is. With that said, considering the entire market has crashed, it definitely makes sense that Ethereum has crashed this much. But I do think what we're going to see here in the next little while, and by the next little while, I should clarify my terms. By the next little while, I mean in the next 3 to 6 months or so, I believe that Ethereum and its altcoin partners are going to be setting bottoms, and we are going to be seeing good investing times for some of these altcoins that do have a long future, that do have longevity, that do have implementations, that do have use cases, that do have utility value, and do have adoption, etc., etc., etc. And I think Ethereum is a good example of that. I think Ethereum is a good project. I do think it has good leadership, and I do think it's a good cryptocurrency to be investing in for the long term. Of course, you guys have to do your own research before doing any of that, before doing any investments. With that said, let's go ahead and do a little bit of technical analysis on Ethereum. There are a lot of things that we want to talk about with Ethereum, one of which is just its oscillators. As we can see, Ethereum's oscillators they are actually looking very good for Ethereum. We can see RSI sitting down here in very deep in oversold territory. We can see Ethereum's RSI, as of a couple of days ago, was down here around 20, which is a very similar level that we saw before the rally from $370 up to around $850. That would be indicative that we're going to see at least some sideways price action like we saw right here, or potentially a new rally coming in. And if we were to see a new rally in Ethereum, I would probably expect it to come up here to around $400 at this very well-established level here on the Ethereum over US dollar chart. That's probably where I would expect some kind of rally to come, with potential resistance at some of its moving averages, like the 20 daily exponential moving average, which is a moving average that we've recently gotten resistance at right around here. And we also may see resistance somewhere around the 50 daily simple moving average, which would be this red line right here, should Ethereum break bullish above the 20 daily simple moving average, exponential moving average. Another thing that we want to look at, stochastic RSI is also very overextended down here. It's very oversold. A lot of the oscillators on many of the altcoins and on Bitcoin indeed are calling for some kind of rally coming here in the next couple of weeks, simply because some of these altcoins and Bitcoin also have been they've been crashing, to put it bluntly. They've been just jumping off a cliff. We've seen that happen a lot in 2018. But nevertheless, I do think that Ethereum is going to have its day, and I do think a lot of the altcoins are going to have its day. And another thing that we want to look at is that Ethereum does have a very strong level of support down here around $200. Not only is $200 a big even, not only has $200 had a lot of price action back over here, it is also right around the same place that we would expect Ethereum to be getting a bounce, which is right now. So to see Ethereum come up here and get back up above $200 would be very good indeed. And as we can see on the short term, actually Ethereum went down to around $167 and is currently trading at around $190. That kind of ties into this little 5%, 4% move that we've seen here on Ethereum, and it does look like Ethereum may be setting some kind of bounce in motion here, guys. Anyway, tell me in the comment section down below what your opinions are on the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrencies, and the Ethereum markets. I'm interested, as always, to hear your opinions on where the market is going. I love getting your feedback because it helps me become a better YouTuber and a better all-rounded cryptocurrency investor and trader. Let's get a comment comments section conversation going. If you want to join the conversation in the Discord server, the link to join is in the description down below. I do love seeing you guys join, and I do try to welcome every single person. If I don't welcome you, go ahead, type @CryptoJeb and message me, say, "Hey Jeb, you forgot to welcome me." Welcome me, damn it, and I'll welcome you. Okay, I'll welcome you if you do that. I promise I will. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.